Welcome everyone. If I could ask you to be upstanding in the opening prayer. Almighty God, we ask that you be present at this meeting to assist us in our service to the community through local government. We pray that our decisions will be wise and taken with goodwill and clear conscience. Amen. Councillor and officer presence at the meeting. Apologies and granting of leave. Do we have an apology from our CEO on leave?
I think you approved yes, we do have an apology.
Yep, okay. Item 4, disclosures of conflict of interest. Do we have any conflicts of interest? No, I actually have a conflict on item 12.3. I have a direct conflict as I own a gravel quarry. Confirmation of minutes. Item number 5. Oh, hang on. Sorry, we probably need to go back to item number 3, apologies. And the apology be accepted. So we need a move and a seconder for Councillor Scales, Councillor Dick Shea. So we're back, we've done.
Do the same for conflict of interest.
Do we? I don't know. Number 5, confirmation of minutes. The minutes from the ordinary council meeting held on the 15th of December 2021 will be provided to councillors at the February 2022 council meeting. So there are no minutes to. Petitions and joint letters.
We haven't received
None of
any
those.
aware of.
Public question time. No one. The informal meeting of councillors, the meeting records from the 29th of November 2021 to the 28th of January 2022 will be provided to councillors at the February 2022 council meeting. 9, organisational improvement. 9.1, the quarterly budget report. The next report will be provided to council in February 2022. 9.2, Man from Snowy River Bush Festival sponsorship request. Acting CEO, if I can ask Rachel to respond or let us know what that's about.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this report was prepared by Ms. Janelle Williamson. The purpose of the report, a decision is required in relation to the request for the Man from Snowy River Bush Festival Committee for a 3-year in-kind support agreement. The Man from Snowy River Bush Festival is one of the biggest festivals in the Shire, and this agreement reflects the support that the council has provided this festival in the past, and they are requesting a 3-year agreement.
Any questions or clarification on that report? Councillor Waltman?
Yes, Mayor, just they've requested a 3-year support for the festival, and can we just have the reason behind that?
Yes, the acting CEO.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. I believe it gives the committee more security in order to promote their event, in order to look at extra funding opportunities that they'll be able to demonstrate that they've got council support.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions or clarification on that report? Do we have someone move that recommendation? Councillor Dick Shay.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd like to move that the recommendation as presented be adopted.
Do we have a seconder for that? Councillor Anderson. Anyone opposing? All in favour? Carried. Bushfire relief and recovery. Bushfire relief and recovery quarterly reports. The next report will be provided to Council in February 2022. 11.1 Building Better Regions Fund Round 6 Regional Tourism Infrastructure Fund is our acting CEO.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. This report presents or seeks Council's approval to submit grant applications for two projects. The Midder Connection project under the Building Better Regions Fund Round 6, the infrastructure project stream, and the Bellbridge Boat House kickstarting a tourism economy for the Regional Tourism Infrastructure Fund. Both are asking for a council contribution to be committed for the applications as presented in the report.
Do we have any questions or clarification required on that report? Councillor Scales.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. It's probably a bit more of a statement. I think we've probably, at the stage we are also very supportive of the Bellbridge project. I think we may have rushed it through perhaps, and I think we definitely need a bit more information into the future provided by officers if we can possibly do that in a workshop or something. But I'm supportive of putting it through today.
Any other questions or clarification? Councillor Wardman.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Look, I'm really pleased about this application for the Midder Township. We've put off the upgrade to the township for quite a while, and we all know that the infrastructure is coming is a bit tired, and some of it's coming to the end of its life. And let's hope, fingers crossed, that we are able to get this money to get a great outcome for the Midder Valley and the Midder Township.
Anyone else? Questions, clarification? We have a recommendation. Anyone like to move the recommendation? Councillor Anderson.
Yes, Mr Mayor. I'd like to move the recommendation with an edit. Remove the recommendation number 7. And for number 8, could we please add on to the end of the sentence and progress further community consultation? So officers investigate opportunities for grant funding and private investment to reduce council's contribution to the Bellbridge Boathouse project and progress further community consultation.
Yes.
Number 9, with an addition. Officers prepare a report for future meetings, to present grant funding and private investment opportunities. We probably need to add to the Bellbridge Boathouse project. Because
Yeah,
it's,
because we're talking about it here.
Yeah.
So we'll just type it up on the screen there, Denise. Yeah. Happy with that reads the way you wanted.
Probably officers prepare a report. Oh yeah, for a future meeting to present grant funding. Yep, thank you.
Thank you. We've got a motion, and we have a seconder for that motion. Councillor Walkman. Anyone opposed? Move Councillor Anderson, second Councillor Walkman. Yep. Anyone opposed? No? All in favour? Carried. Sorry, I was reading something on the screen. Come on.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, just a point of clarification. Did we just vote on the amendment? Or did
No,
we?
it was only a recommendation that was put.
Yes, sure. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. 12, asset management. 12.1, naming and registration of unnamed roads. Acting CEO again.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This report provides information to support the naming and registration of currently unnamed roads in Walwa and Pudgewal. The naming process for the roads is set out in the guidelines for geographic names 2016, and the report seeking council's endorsement of the names presented in the recommendation.
Thank you, Rachel. Any questions or clarification on that report? I just have one, Rachel. There was possibly discussion early on about lands or land lane, whether they would allow with an S.
Yeah,
Have we got the right?
I'll have to take that question on notice, Mr. Mayor.
Right.
We can put in the recommendation. Was that investigated before
Yep.
endorsement is approved? You want?
Is someone happy to move a recommendation that goes ahead with the investigation on whether it's lands or land?
Officers investigate whether lands is allowed
Yep.
or can be approved.
Can be approved. I think that's probably the recommended one, as long as it's allowed to be approved.
Yeah. So if it was land, is that okay?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll have to put that up on the screen. So a second recommendation, officers investigate whether lands can be approved, with an alternative of land, endorsed by council. If it can't be, that's not the right word, but any assistance would be appreciated.
Should be officers investigate the possibility that lands can be approved. Should we put that?
Yep. Possibility that lands can be approved under the guidelines. An alternative of land endorsed by council is required.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm happy with that. Any other questions or clarification? We've got a recommendation. Would someone like to move that recommendation? Councillor Anderson. Seconder, Councillor Dick Shea. Anyone opposed? All in favour? Carried. (12.2) Ceiling of walking tracks, tender assessment. Again, I call on our acting CEO.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This report provides an assessment of the tender for sealing of walking tracks across the Shire, and to seek council's approval to appoint the recommended contractor. Report demonstrates the process that has been undertaken for the tender, and the recommendation is as presented.
Thank you. Any questions or clarification on that report? No, can we have someone move a recommendation? Councillor Scales,
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Happy to move that the recommendation as presented be adopted.
and a seconder? Councillor Wortman. Anyone against? All in favour? Carried. .3, so I have a conflict on this item. We might just get someone to move a motion that the Deputy Mayor takes the chair whilst I leave the room. Councillor Anderson and a seconder. Councillor Dickshay, all in favour? Carried. Thank you.
He's tall, isn't he? Okay, 12.3, supply of gravel and related related items, contract number. I invite CEO to
Thank
speak to
you.
the reporter.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. This report provides information in relation to a non-compliance with Council's procurement policy and seeks Council's approval to proceed with remediation actions, including documenting the contract where purchase orders have been issued in order to mitigate where possible Council's risk exposure. The purpose of the report is to award a contract for the supply of gravel and related items to Hillier Contracting for the Great River Road Stage 2, contract number 2021-22-046. And the recommendation is as presented.
Thank you, Rachel. Councillors, any questions or clarification? Councillor Scales.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Through you to our acting CEO. Rachel, we've had a number of these deviations from procurement, if I say it that way. Do you think we've found them all now and towards the end of it, or do you envisage a few more may still occur?
Through you, Deputy Mayor. It is my sincere hope that this is the last one. The list that was presented to councillors previously, I think covered most of what we found, and there hasn't been any further ones that we've come across, so, yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Scales. Any other questions or clarification, Councillor? We have a recommendation. Do we have a motion? Councillor Dickshay.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd like to move that the recommendation as presented be adopted.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Scales. All in favour? Motion is carried. Oh, thanks, Jess. Thank you. What? My adjusting chair. My job.
We need to move in together. Seeing we move to swap, I think, or if someone can move that. The Mayor takes a seat again. Councillor Anderson, moved. Councillor Scales, all in favour, carried. Thank you. Four point four, purchase of tip truck. I'll call on our acting CEO again.
Is it good?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The purpose of this report is to provide information to support the assessment of the tender for the purchase of the tip truck for the Corrion Depot, and to seek council's approval to appoint the recommended supplier. Report demonstrates the process that has been followed in order to identify who the recommended supplier is, and the recommendation is as presented.
Thank you. Do we have any questions or clarification on that report? No, do we have someone, a mover for that report? Councillor Scales,
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Happy to move that the recommendation as presented be adopted.
thank you, Councillor Scales, a seconder. Councillor Walkman. Anyone against? All in favour? Carried. Uh, 12.5 is the purchase of a Bogey Drive garbage compactor truck. So I can call on our acting CEO again.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. To provide this report, purpose of this report is to provide information to support the assessment of tender for the purchase of a Bogey Drive garbage compactor truck, and to seek council's approval to appoint the recommended supplier. The report demonstrates the tender process that has been followed to identify the recommended supplier, and the recommendation is as presented.
Thank you. Questions or clarification? No? You have someone like to move the recommendation? Councillor Walkman,
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I'd like to move that the recommendation as presented be adopted.
a seconder. Councillor Anderson. Anyone opposed? All in favour? Carried. .6, Corrion Airport self-serve 24-hour aviation fuel facility. I believe we might call on our acting CEO.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The purpose of this report is to provide information to support the assessment of tenders for the Corrion Airport self-serve 24-hour aviation fuel facility, and to seek council's approval to appoint the recommended contractor. The report demonstrates the tender process that's been followed for the procurement of the contractor to undertake the supply, installation, maintenance and ongoing management of aviation fuel at the Corrion Airport. The tender includes an upfront capital investment which is covered by grant funding, and a 5-year supply and maintenance lease with 2 5-year extension options, which will bring some income back to council. The recommendations are as presented.
Thank you. Any questions or clarification? Councillor Walkman.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I just want to clarify, the contractor is going to supply the fuel and the maintenance of that, of the infrastructure. Who owns the tank?
If I could call on our acting CEO again.
Through you, Mr Mayor. The council will own the tank. It's part of a funded program for us to install the tank, and then the operation of the tank and distribution of fuel will come under the lease.
Thank you.
Any other questions or clarification? Would someone like to move a recommendation? Councillor Dickshay.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd like to move the recommendation as presented be adopted.
Seconder. Councillor Scales. Anyone opposed? All in favour? Carried. .7 Relocation of Victorian State Government project funding, reallocation. I might have said relocation, did I? Reallocation of Victorian State Government funding, and I'll call on our acting CEO again.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. This report seeks council approval to reallocate capital project funds received from the Victorian State Government for the Tolanga Holiday Park, Corrion CBD and the Corrion Circuit Trail projects to enable the completion of the funded project at Clack Clack Caravan Park. The market prices for the building construction at Clack Clack Caravan Park have increased significantly since the funding for the park was received, and this has impacted on council's ability to be able to deliver the full scope of works. A variation request was submitted to Regional Development Victoria, who administer the funding, to reduce the scope of works at the caravan park. However, this request was unsuccessful, and council now required to deliver the full project scope, including upgrades to the western amenities block, park entrance and a new playground. Regional Development Victoria have requested council to redirect funding from other state-funded projects that council currently has to enable the delivery of these items at the park. The recommendation is as presented.
Any questions or clarification on that report? Councillor Waltman?
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Look, I'm a little concerned that RDV has suggested that we reallocate funds from other projects. I've got to be honest, I've got some concerns about moving the grant allocation money from planned holiday pay. And I'd just like to voice my concerns that I don't agree with that.
Any other questions or clarification? Councillor Scales?
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Similar to Councillor Waltman, I do have some concerns about moving funding away from other projects. However, I do feel that we may be able to fund those in other ways into the future. The pressure is on us to get this project delivered. Would not feel in favour of reallocating the money from Chilanga Holiday Park, but I will foreshow a motion.
Right, any other questions or clarification? Councillor Scales, your...
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Basically, just a few changes to the recommendation that we have got on the screen. If point 1 could be changed to approve the reallocation of $408,428, excluding GST, from the current CBD project to the Caravan Park project, after the $408,428 of state funding. State government funding, yep, excellent. Take out point 3 altogether, please. And so now I'll add number 3, but officers to investigate opportunities for funding to reduce council's contribution to the Corryong CBD project, and a report identifying these opportunities is presented to the February council meeting.
Happy, Councillor Scales? Councillor Scales has moved the recommendation. Do we have a seconder for that recommendation? Councillor Waltman. Anyone opposed to that recommendation? All in favour? Carried. Thirteen point one land use planning report. The next report will be provided to council in February 2022. Environmental sustainability. The next report will be provided to council in February 2022. Economic and tourism development report. The next report will be provided to council in February 2022. 16, councillors' report. No councillors' reports. 17, urgent business. No urgent business. 18, committee minutes. None of those. 19, occupational health and safety. 19, there are no new minutes to report. Council policies, there are no policies to table for review or to adopt at this meeting. 21, sealing of documents. None of those. 22 is confidential. Don't believe we have anything in that line, and that concludes our meeting. Thank you very much.